Hey, what is up, Rip City? Good afternoon. Happy Sunday, January 8th. This is the fifth quarter. I am Preston Highfield. Chris Burkhart joining me as well. Portland Trailblazers fall 117-105 in Toronto to wrap up a porous road trip as the Blazers go 0-3 with losses to Minnesota, Indiana, and today Toronto. They've now lost 7 straight games on the road. Their last road victory did come all the way back on December 17th when they beat Houston 107-95. Is it all doom and gloom right now? Well, maybe not. Maybe it's just the middle of January and players are tired and players are sick and 3 different key cogs on the bench are hurt and not playing. But not a great time right now for the Portland Trailblazers. Feel free to call in 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. Voice your thoughts, concerns, what you could maybe see as silver linings, what you could maybe see as things that need to rapidly improve from a coaching standpoint, from a playing standpoint. Hey, whatever you think, man, we are here for you. 503-248-0620. You got Preston and Chris. I'm on Twitter, PC_Highfield. He is on Twitter at Chris J. Burkhart. We are also on YouTube. Shout out to Chris for getting that going. Feel free to visit the YouTube page where the video is up as well. We will hear more from Coach Billups, potentially hear from Dame. We'll also give you our drive of the night, our shot of the night, our scoreboard report, and more in this next hour or so, depending on how long we end up going and if you guys want to call in and chime in or not. You can also interact on that YouTube page as well. There's always some kind of fun comments and back and forth between folks on that YouTube page as well, so that's always fun to break down. Certainly appreciate any of that interaction. All right, let's talk about this game. Blazers fall 117-105. There was a huge stretch between the end of the first quarter and about halfway through the second quarter. I tracked it down on the play-by-play. Portland went nearly 9 minutes without a field goal. Nearly 9 minutes without a field goal. And if you recall, they closed the Indiana game with the last 7.5 minutes of the game not making a field goal as well. Damian Lillard is out there. Anthony Simons is out there. Jeremy Grant is out there. Yusuf Nurkic is out there. I fully understand that you don't have a few of the best players on your bench, that being Gary Payton II, Nasir Little, and Justice Winslow. Those are guys who can really, really help this team. They can really, really help this team. And they are difference makers. Now, are they, whatever. Blazer fans are always thinking about the title. Are they title-level difference makers? Who really knows? But are they difference makers to where you could beat a Toronto team who's entered today 7 games under 500? Absolutely. Absolutely. So those guys are huge losses. I don't want to come down too hard on the Blazers for losing without those players, but you would have loved to see at least 1, maybe 2 wins on what is a very manageable road trip. I honestly thought I thought Minnesota played a lot better than they did. They deserved to lose that Minnesota game, but they definitely could have won the Indiana game, and they could have won today had they played better and not gone on massive, massive droughts scoring. So just to recap, the Josh Hart 3-point field goal on an assist from Dame at the 3:13 mark made it 25-23 Portland. From there, Portland went all the way till the 6:25 mark with a Josh Hart dunk between scoring field goals. They hit 4 free throws in that mark, in that span, almost 9 minutes. The score at that point was 48-31 Toronto. And we talked about it in the pregame, Chris and I did. The bench production's just not there for Portland right now. 1 field goal from the bench tonight, 1 of 3. That was Shaedon Sharpe, who got in and hit that nice 3 from the deep spot of the corner in front of the Toronto fans. It was a nice bucket, but besides that, just no scoring from the Portland bench. Ant Simons, 42 minutes. Dame Lillard, 41 minutes. Dame, finished strong, ended up with 34 points, 8 assists, and 4 rebounds. Maybe a slightly misleading stat line, but credit to him for getting hot in the fourth quarter. But he didn't have a great game until kind of late in the fourth when they were down 10-15. Raptors' largest lead was, I believe, 19 points. Ant Simons, 22 points, 2 assists. 6 of 14 shooting. Jeremy Grant, 4 of 11, 1 of 6 from 3, 14 points. And I guess, Chris, as we bring you in, it kind of seems like right now, if the Blazers starters aren't perfect, if they don't go bananas, they don't really have a shot to beat many teams right now, given the lack of bench availability and then right now the lack of bench production.
Yes, but at the same time, they said it there in the post game. And it was what you and I had talked about in the pregame, Preston. It was, there wasn't a lot of production from the bench. The starters had to play the whole fourth quarter because it was one of those games where you couldn't trust the bench to get it done. And I think trust is a major, major factor here, man. If I don't trust you to sit in that chair and host the show, and then I vocalize that I don't trust you, and Chad does the same, how do you trust yourself? You know what I'm saying? You start to question yourself. I would do the same if you question me or my boss questioned me. And Chauncey said as much post-game after Indiana, right? Like, no, that's not what the bench's job is, or I don't trust them in that situation, basically. I think these are the type of situations, Preston, where you throw them to the fire and you forge them then and there. There is no reason that Keon Johnson needs to enter the fourth having played just 4 minutes. There's just not.
I'm totally with you. Yeah, Keon got in early in the game. He got in the first quarter anyway, finished with 4 total minutes. That was about all the action he saw. And I'm with you. Like, what better moment than on a road trip with the starters ailing and tired, and Nurk has the flu. Dame told Jason Quick the other night that Dame himself feels pretty healthy. But what better moment than now with GP2 out, with Winslow out, and with Nasir Little out? And it just shows you, I think a lot of people were kind of questioning the Winslow and Nasir, and not questioning the GP2 signing, but just kind of wondering when the production would come. You see how big of a loss those guys are. I mean, if you look at Toronto's starters and the number of minutes they played, and they did play a lot of minutes, but not nearly as many as the Blazers starters. Pascal Siakam, 38 minutes. OG Anunoby, 34. Scotty Barnes, just 25. Van Vliet, 35. Gary Trent Jr., the weekend, 36. And then, you had Trae Young, pardon me, not Trae Young. You had Chris Boucher, 10 minutes off the bench. Juancho Hernan-Gomez, a.k.a. the star of that Netflix show with Adam Sandler, 12 minutes. Precious Achiuwa, 11 minutes. Christian Coloco, shout out Arizona, 13 minutes. And Malachi Flynn, Mountain West guy, San Diego State, 13 minutes as well. They got a lot more bench production. They just did. 2, 3, 5, 9, 10 field goals, 10 buckets off the bench for the Raptors, just 1 bucket off the bench for the Blazers, 117, 105. There's also this kind of prevailing thought that, when we've heard it from Chauncey in post games, Chris, which is, we're getting good looks. They're just not going in. And I get why he says that. And at times it's true, but I think there's a difference between, getting decent to good looks. And then, like the Raptors walked into a bunch of open jump shots tonight. I saw Pascal Siakam. He'd call for a screen. He'd come up the screen. He'd rise and fire and hit a mid-range. Toronto, good mid-range shooting team. Like, there's a difference between, like, an open shot and an open shot. And I feel like just in terms of quality looks, and I don't know what you saw, but felt like the Raptors got better looks, too. They're scoring a bit more balanced. Siakam with 27, OG 14, Scotty Barnes 22, Van Vliet 14, and Gary Trent 19. And by the way, it's not like any of them shot the lights out. I mean, Gary Trent, 6 of 16. Fred Van Vliet, 5 of 12. Scotty Barnes, 7 of 12. He's kind of a high percentage bucket guy. OG, 4 of 11. Pascal Siakam, 8 of 19. I mean, no one really went berserk for Toronto, but they were just still able to get 117 points. And I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know what you do if you're Portland at this point. Like, I don't think Chauncey really has many answers right now.
Well, the thing is, you talk about the open shots, and Toronto had them in pregame. Well, one of my keys to the game was forcing them to take three-pointers, but not giving them wide open ones. That's completely different. Toronto entered this game shooting about 32, I think 32.5% from deep. Not a great three-point shooting team. Shot a little over 38% in this one. And you look down the stretch there, like Fred VanVleet, wide open, boom, buries it, right? Chris Boucher, wide open, boom, buries it. Forcing them to take three-pointers does not mean giving them wide open ones. You still got to make it hard on these guys. They're NBA players, right? So defensive, lapses, things falling apart, things that we would hope that at this point in the season, the calendar has turned to 2023, that you would start to fix those things. But they still continue to rear their ugly head.
Yeah, I think it was your stat of the night. Good point by you. Toronto Raptors dead last in the league in three-point shooting percentage, 32.4%. And they still didn't shoot it great tonight, but pretty decent as a team. They didn't shoot well until kind of later. They finished 12 of 31, 38% from three. All right, we're going to take our first break. Again, the phone line, 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620. I can see folks chiming in on the YouTube page as well. We'll get back to some of your comments there. Feel free to hit us up on Twitter or call in and give us your take as the Blazers fall to the Toronto Raptors. 117-105. They dropped to 19-20 on the year. They are headed home, though. The silver lining, Portland coming back home this week to Moda Center. This is the fifth quarter. We'll be right back here on 620 Rip City Radio. Welcome back to the fifth quarter. Preston Highfield and Chris Burkhart with you, sitting in for Chad Dewing. Happy final regular season Sunday of the NFL season. My Chargers, I don't know what they're doing. They are playing all of their starters despite being a lock to get the 5 seed. They are the 5 seed. When the Ravens lost, the Chargers were automatically placed into the 5 seed. They cannot go any higher. They cannot go any lower. Yet still, Justin Herbert and the offense are out there in the fourth quarter, and Mike Williams is hurt. So I'm a little frustrated. I will try to be more positive the rest of this show. Let's go out to the phone lines. This guy's always positive. It's Ken in Vancouver. Ken, how you doing?
Hey, all things considering, I thought other than the turnovers, which were bad today, no doubt about it, but I thought the shot making was better today. They really gave it their all. At least let me put that in perspective. The starting 5 gave it their all. That was the most anemic bench performance I've seen in a long time. And you know what, Mr. GP2, you're not going to get away on this one, okay? I hear in the shoot-around you had some discomfort. Okay, well, I saw Josh Hart play 5 games with discomfort on almost every hard rebound he went for, every shot, every blood and guts play. So it's obvious that maybe GP2 got paid, and that's enough for him. He's got to prove something to me. I am not impressed. So he gets part of this beef today with the bench. Watching the bench out there, they're just ineffective. They're anemic. It's brutal to watch. There's no shot makers there. They literally look like guys who shouldn't even be in the NBA right now. I mean, Keon was awful. Watford was only in there a couple minutes, and Chauncey said, "Nah, you can't play." And Drew, who's played great all season, has struggled on the road trip. So, but the starters, I'll tell you, with that kind of minutes, they gave it their all. And considering, I'm proud of them today.
I'm with you. I think it's a good point on the bench. I mean, that's something that is just becoming increasingly more obvious, but now especially with the GP2 injury and after the Blazers fan base got a taste of him the other night, they obviously want to see more from him. Little's out, Winslow's out. Do you think when those guys come back, I mean, those are basically the key bench pieces. When they come back, do you see this team improving significantly, slightly? How would you see this team when those bench pieces come back?
Without a doubt, because one, they're both talented. First of all, Winslow gives us another dog who can do everything: defense, rebounding, facilitating. He's really the second best point guard on the team behind Dame. Winslow actually facilitates. I really love Ann as a 2-guard. He's a fantastic young 2-guard, and I think as a 2-guard, he's going to be very, very special. But the team bogs down when he's facilitating. It just doesn't get done, and you can see that. We've got to go out there. Once Winslow gets back, that'll give us another facilitator. I would like us to acquire somebody at the deadline as far as, maybe off the buyout area or something that is a true point guard who can help facilitate that bench, because right now it's a struggle. Watching the bench, it's awful. I mean, it's bad as I've seen it. And then you talk about Nasir. Nasir's really coming into his own with his shot, and they missed that big time. You've got guys out there who shouldn't be seeing minutes, guys who are hurt. But I'm proud of the starters today, big time, and I'm not giving up. I mean, we got the home games now. Yeah, we've had the awful road, but we need to get healthy, though. I mean, we have got to get depth on that bench, because the last 2 games, I don't know what we were outscored, but I think it was something to the tune of 66-30 or something. The benches we've gone against our bench, and I don't even know if we scored that many points, to be honest with you. We only had 3 today. So go Blazers. I think they're going to get it going. I like what I see from the starters, and Nurk gave it his all. Grant, who's struggled a little bit with his shot the last game and a half. It happens. He's been so hot. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everybody struggles occasionally with their shot, but man, I'll tell you this. One thing that goes, I'll tell you today, I've watched every single game in Dame's career. That was as good a defense as I've ever seen him play. He was all over the place today. That was a great effort that many people, especially you know who, will just bypass, throw it to the side like they never saw it. But his on-ball defense, his switching, it was spot on. He forced turnovers. And I'm telling you, I was proud of it, man. That's a guy who don't even talk about effort with the guy. He gives more effort than those three guys who hate his guts could muster in their lifetimes. So I'm proud of Dame. I'm proud of the effort. I'm proud of the Blazer starters, but the Blazer bench, it's not on Chauncey. Yeah. People can say, oh, Chauncey needs to play the bench more. No, he doesn't. Did you watch? They can't play.
Yeah, he gave him that shot at the end of the first quarter, and look what happened. The Blazers went without a field goal for like 9 minutes.
It was brutal. It was brutal. He had to bring Dame in early, and then he just played the whole fourth quarter because Chauncey was like, the only chance we have is to play Dame the whole fourth quarter.
What do you think about, last thing for you, Ken, what do you think about Dame playing an off-ball spot, like a two-spot with a true point guard at times? Like back when they did with, when they had Evan Turner, who was, Evan Turner, I know that people weren't ultimately obviously happy with him, but there were times where it looked like it was working with him, or something that could be a little different to take a little less pressure off of Dame just to make everything happen on offense. What would you think about that?
I love the idea. And I'm sure Dame would love it too. The only reason he goes back to being the main facilitator is because there isn't anybody else who can facilitate properly. Yeah. Dame's passes are spot on. Yeah, he's had a few extra turnovers of late, but you're getting used to all these, the movement and the switches and stuff. But at the same time, if we could get somebody like, you name it, like back in the day, I don't know if the guy's any good anymore, but a couple of years ago, a guy like DJ Augustine, he was a good facilitator off the bench. Ish Smith for Denver is a good facilitator off the bench. Somebody that Dame knew that, hey, this guy knows how to facilitate. I'm sure Dame would love to spot up and just nail three-pointers and, actually get a breather sometimes on offense instead of having to, facilitate the whole game. He's not scared of it, but if you have a true point guard, that can happen. But you got to have another true point guard off the bench, somebody who can facilitate. So Cronin needs to get that done.
Absolutely. And I think Justice can do that. I mean, he's not a DJ Augustine true point guard, and it doesn't always look natural, but when he has the ball in the half court, he can actually do a pretty good job of kind of screen setting, simultaneously passing, getting the Blazers into certain sets. So that could help.
Totally agree. I mentioned that earlier, too, that he's our second-best facilitator right now on the league. And this isn't a slight on Ant, because I really love Ant. I see him as a two-guard perfect. I mean, I think Ant has a big-time upside, maybe even to be a Bradley Beal type down the line. But as a facilitator, he just doesn't have the court vision.
Yeah, he's a pure scorer. And, he started the game off well, hit a couple threes, got to the line. So that's what he can do. He can get you 10 points in an instant. That's kind of what they need him to do.
Exactly. Instant offense, you know what I mean? And he helps take pressure off Dame as well because they know that, okay, he's red hot. Well, we're going to have to double him instead, and that gives Dame open looks. The problem is the facilitating side. Yeah. You know what I mean? I really think he could be an all-star caliber two guard. I have no doubt in my mind, but they got to get that guy off the bench. And Winslow will help. You are right, because Winslow is a very good facilitator. And that's why we were playing better when Winslow was healthy. When Winslow went down, that's when we started really dropping a lot of these games because the bench went to basically kind of trash, to be honest.
Let me throw you one name, and this just kind of came to my brain. Rondo. He's not in the league right now. Is he washed, or could he be an asset to this team? I mean, he was on the title team 2 years ago.
I kind of feel like that ship has sailed. I think they could get somebody more, with younger legs. Then, I think I get what you're saying, but one thing that kind of worries me is that when Rondo went to Cleveland, I think it was last year, he didn't have very many quality games. Now, maybe I didn't watch enough. I do a lot of fantasy basketball, so I have to pay attention to the whole league as far as pickups off the waiver wire. But I really really rather get somebody a little younger, maybe in the buyout market, like I said, potentially, at the trade deadline. But there's some good backup point guards in this league that just basically ride the pines. And, you know what I mean? Like I said, I mentioned Ish Smith, but he's going to stay in Denver most likely. I think Augustine is maybe getting a little long in the tooth, but I got to believe there's some guys out there that could bring that extra, oomph to the bench and really, and hey, maybe finally help get some of the guys who are on the bench into better scoring positions.
Yeah, I'm looking at a list. I mean, Corey Joseph could be out there. He's a
Corey
good player.
Joseph, I'd take him. I'd take Corey Joseph. He is a quality backup point guard, and he hits his shots when he's open.
Absolutely.
So that would be a great name. Is there a couple more on there?
Dragic is getting older. George Hill's a little older.
Nah.
Dennis Schroeder's actually playing really good ball for the Lakers. I don't even know if the Blazers could afford him. He might try to ask teams for a lot of money.
You know what? Out of all those guys, Dame respects the you-know-what out of Dragic. Dragic is fantastic. He's been underutilized the last few years for whatever reason. He was great a couple years ago on that drive to the finals.
He was so good on that finals team, and then he broke down. He unfortunately got hurt late in the playoffs. Yes,
but then he was healthy. But Toronto did one of those tank things where they were like, no, you're sitting the rest of the season, and you know what? You can just go ahead and stay at home, or one of those kind of things. Dragic, to me, I would immediately be on the phone with him because I think he'd be fantastic. And you talk about a guy who can get white hot shooting the ball. He has beautiful stroke. That's a fantastic name. Right now, that has the potential. You get, the other guys coming back. That has a plus, to me, a plus 5 to plus 10 game kind of addition in Dragic. That is a fantastic name. That's the guy I'd want.
There we go. I like it. Look at us solving problems together. Ken, thank you for the call, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, guys, and hey, blessings to everybody.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. There's Ken in Vancouver. Always a good chat with Ken in Vancouver. Yeah, I like it, man. I've always been a fan of taking pressure off of Dame. Like I've said, if there's 10 seconds left in a game, to quote the great Gus Johnson, shot clock turned off, game clock at 10. Give me Dame over anybody to ISO up and hit that big step back J for the win. But if you're talking about shouldering a workload over the course of not just a regular season but a playoff run, it can't just be, man, I hope Dame saves us. And I know that the Blazers know that. And Ant provides a nice scoring punch. I mean, you'll see times when Ant was in foul trouble, I think in a Minnesota game, and the whole team went cold because there was really no one else in the game who was hitting with Ant in foul trouble. But, I would just like to see the Blazers take some pressure off of Dame in the half court if possible. And I like the way that they operate the offense with Nurkic in the high post at times. He's a good passer out of that spot. He really is. But I'd like to see some.
You know who's been a good backup point guard in limited games because he had to deal with an injury, unfortunately, but it's been very good and was unfortunately a victim of circumstance here. Dennis Smith Jr.
Okay.
He's been averaging 5 assists per game, playing his limited minutes as a backup point guard. He's had a very good year in that role. He was just a victim of circumstance here in Portland, unfortunately, so they had to, cut the ties there with him. But someone like that is the type of guy I think would be good.
Yeah, anyone who's down to kind of help set the offense up. I know that I don't know what teams think of him right now, but Frank Ntilikina from the Knicks, now the Mavericks, who is not necessarily a guy who looks to get his own shot all the time. He's more of a team player and a defensive point guard. That could be another guy as well. I mean, there's a lot of options out there. A lot of options. It'd be fun to see Dame play with a floor general, like a Steve Blake type. I mean, you maybe hope for a higher ceiling, but, you know what you're getting, and you're getting quality, consistent, offense, players in the right space. Dame not getting double teamed. He's able to run off the ball a little more. I'd like to see that. All right, Blazers fall 117-105. It wasn't all bad. Some hot spurts on offense throughout this game, which brings us to our two segments, and we will start with the drive of the night. All right, well, we're not going to start with the drive of the night just yet. We got Chris handling phone calls for us in the back. We'll get to the drive of the night momentarily. Blazers fall 117-105. Jeremy Grant, 14 points. Nurk, 14 points. Dame Lillard, 34 points. Josh Hart, 18 points. Simons, 22. The big story of the game, though, was the bench from the Raptors outscoring Portland 21-3 was the big factor, and that's something we've talked about a lot. I know that we've kind of hit it on the head many different times throughout the broadcast, in the pregame and now in the postgame. But that's what it is, man. Blazers don't have a ton of depth right now. Are we good to get to the drive of the night, Chris?
Sure. You look like a deer in the headlights. Like, dead air. Oh no, Chris couldn't push buttons while he's on the phone. Oh no. Oh no.
See, Chris is doing it all.
I can talk and push buttons.
It's time for the Portland Trailblazers Drive of the Night, here on the fifth quarter, hosted by Chad Dewing, 620 Rip City Radio. Drive of the Night is brought to you by Dick's Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram of Wilsonville, ready to compete with the lowest prices in town.
Screen comes back to Nurk. Nurk looks for a cutting Hart to the rim, and he dunks it in. So Josh Hart with the last 2 field goals for the Blazers, except they're spread out by about 9 minutes.
So there was the drive of the night there. Josh Hart. There were some other good drives in there, too. Ant Simons had a sweet dunk. Dame had a couple of and ones. But I like the aggression from Josh Hart tonight. I really did. I mean, he brought it. 18 points, 8 rebounds, crashing in the lane. I mean, I can't say enough about what I've seen from Josh Hart this year in terms of just his drive, his want to at 6'4", playing the 3 spot in that starting lineup when Dame and Ant are both in there. I mean, it's awesome to see from Josh Hart. All right, let's shift over to our shot of the night.
It's time for the Nothing But Net Shot of the Night, here on the fifth quarter, 620 Rip City Radio. The Nothing But Net Shot of the Night is brought to you by Oregon Dungeness Crab. Sustainably harvested, uniquely delicious, and always wild. Oregon Dungeness Crab. Always sounds good for dinner.
5 seconds left in the quarter. The ball is tapped and controlled by the Blazers. Here's Simons, 1 second left. 3 at the buzzer. Banks it in.
There's our shot of the night presented by Oregon Dungeness Crab. All right, Blazers are coming home. They have Orlando on Tuesday this week as they fall to a game below 500 for the first time all year, 19-20. They've only played 2 home games since, let's see, I had their schedule up. They've only played 2 home games since December 12th. That's crazy. Charlotte, which they won, and Detroit, which they won. So we'll see if the Blazers can get back to their winning ways as they return home. That'll be a 7 o'clock tip-off on Tuesday at Moda Center. We'll take a break, come back with a look around the association at the scoreboard report, give you maybe some NFL scores as well. And you'll hear from Coach Chauncey Billups. All that is next. You got the fifth quarter on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Welcome back to the fifth quarter. Preston Highfield sitting in for Chad Dewing. We got my man Chris Burkhart producing across the way. Hit us up 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620. A lot of callers right now. Let's head out to the phone lines, and let's start with Victor in Turkey after this game. Victor, thanks for calling as always.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity and your time. Chris is working today, right?
Yep, we got Chris producing, and I'm hosting with Chad out.
Yeah, Chris brought that, what I was going to say. You see, the deal we made with the Pelicans and Clippers. Last week, Chris brought it up. You see, we gave up total of 4 players, 2 to the Pelicans.